When visiting my parents for the holidays, I went through their storage to see if I find any old possessions of mine. Lo and behold, I found my NeoGeo collection. Now, I remember having the console, but I thought I had lost the cables and games. To my surprise, I had everything I needed to play it. Now the question is, will it boot up? Let's see. Hi everyone. As you already know, I found my NeoGeo collection. The NeoGeo was a 16-bit console that came out in 1991, during the days of the Genesis and Super NES. It differed from those systems in that the NeoGeo was a family of systems, and that family consisted of the AES and the MVS. The MVS is the arcade version meant for businesses, and the AES is a home version meant for consumers. It's important to know that the home system wasn't a weakened version of the arcade system. It had the exact same hardware specs. Games made for the home were the exact same as the arcade versions. Some games did have minor changes that made sense in a home environment. Things like limiting the amount of continues, adding story cutscenes, and changing difficulty made sure to add some replay value to home users. Sometimes, there were frustrating changes like removing the blood on the home version of Samurai Showdown, but the chips in the cartridges were the same. They only changed their behavior when they detected a home or arcade system. The downside to having arcade-perfect ports was that the home system and games were really expensive. The system launched at a price of $649, and each game came in at $200. As you would expect, it did not sell a lot of units to home users, but it was very successful in the arcades. So enough of the history. Let's see if my console will actually boot up. Here, I have some of what I found. I do have other games in a memory card, but I just took with me enough to see if the system actually works. So let's first look at the Gamepad. It did not originally come with this controller. I had the NeoGeo arcade stick, but the cord on that had broken, and I eventually lost track of it. I wish I still had it so I could attempt another repair on it. I also had another one of these gamepads, but it's lost and I don't remember what happened to it. This is the original power supply. Nothing fancy, just a power supply. Now I know a lot of you are going to cringe at this. Yes, this is an RF adapter. Ignorant me always played my 16-bit consoles with RF. It was all I knew, but it never affected the joy I got out of the systems. Now I do plan on replacing this adapter. I ordered a RAD2X cable to give me much better video output. For now, I'm just going to be using the RF adapter to make sure the NeoGeo works. And here we have the AES console. It's very dusty, and I do plan on doing a thorough cleaning after I confirm that it's working. One unfortunate thing about it being in storage was this crack. Turns out there were some heavy boxes on top of the one the NeoGeo was stored in. They pushed down on it and caused this crack. I'll see what I can do about this. Here's one of the games I have. It's called Magician Lore. I believe it was released at the same time the NeoGeo was launched. Here's the back of it. And here we have Samurai Showdown, an excellent fighting game. I put a lot of hours into this game. Here's the back with some screenshots. So now that I have the NeoGeo at home, I need a way of plugging it into a television. I only have televisions with digital tuners, so using the RF adapter won't work. An option would be to use the VCR I saw while going through my parents' storage. I can plug in the RF adapter to it and output over composite. Now there are S-video and component connections on this device, but they only work with the DVD playback. So I can't convert the composite or RF connections to S-video or component. My televisions don't have composite, but I can use composite on my video capture box. And since it's only for testing the NeoGeo, it would do just fine. Then I got impatient and didn't feel like waiting. I wonder if there were televisions that supported both analog and digital RF signals. Did some research, and my main living room TV definitely does not. Then I did some more research, and it turns out my bedroom TV does support analog RF in addition to digital. The television gives me an option to find analog channels or add them manually. So I don't need the VCR after all. Now time to test the system. So let me start by plugging everything in. I'll take the RF adapter and plug it into the NeoGeo. I'll also run the other end of the cable to the back of my television. Now I'll plug in the power supply. Then I'll insert a cartridge and plug in the game controller. Now I'll make sure my television is set to analog channel 3 because that's what I have the RF adapter set to. And finally, I'll switch the system on now. Okay, a blue screen. That doesn't look good. I'll reinsert the cartridge again. It works. But what the hell is that sound? I also just remembered there were issues with the gamepad. It won't go to the left. I'm going to have to fix it after I deal with the NeoGeo. So there seems to be issues with voice sounds. I hope it's not an issue with the actual sound chip. Let me try another game and see if the same thing happens. Blue screen again. I'll reinsert. Same. Let me try Samurai Showdown again. So now this game won't come on also. I can't even get into the memory card settings. The way of getting into it is by holding all 4 controller buttons while turning on the system. I'm going to have to do some research and see what can cause these blue screens. So the good thing is that the blue screens mean that the console is working just fine. It just doesn't detect an inserted cartridge, so I would have to clean the cartridges. I had no idea that the system booting up in a certain color gives you some diagnostic information. A user called Xianzi on the NeoGeo.com forums posted a really helpful chart. I hope I pronounced the name correctly. So now I'm going to clean my cartridges. I've read many sites mention to use a Q-tip dipped in 99% isopropyl alcohol. So I'll dip the Q-tip in the alcohol and start rubbing the contacts on the cartridge. The contact didn't really look dirty to me when I visually inspected them. Wow, so it was really dirty. I'll continue the cleaning process and I'll do the same to the other cartridge. After I'm done, I'll leave the cartridge out and give it time to dry. Okay, so now after giving the cartridges about an hour to dry, it's time to test them again. Blue screen again. Now this is frustrating. I'll try again using the other game. Still not working. Back to Samurai Showdown. Okay, it works this time. The voices are working now too. Hopefully it stays that way. I'll try to bring up the memory card menu. That works. The blue screen still concerns me, so I'll try the other game again. Blue screen again. And the same after another try. So I think I'm going to have to also clean the cartridge slot on the motherboard. So I'll go ahead and do that and try again. So the advice I've researched on cleaning the cartridge slot was to use a toothbrush soaked in 99% isopropyl alcohol. So that's what I'll use. After cleaning the slots, I decided to see if the motherboard had any significant dust. I'll use my air blower to get rid of any dust. And since I already have it open, I decided to fix the dent on the case. I was able to repair the dent somewhat. However, while trying to do that, I broke off part of the case. It still fits in the area, so I'm going to have to super glue it. And here it is after it's super glued. Now I'll put everything back together again, and hopefully it will actually work reliably this time. So here's the moment of truth. Works on the first try. Sound's working fine too. Okay, let me try Magician Lord now. That game hasn't worked at all. Yes, it works. This was a game that came with my NeoGeo, and it's still fun to play. I can't do much gameplay-wise because of my controller issue. Let me try Samurai Showdown again. And it works. I'll try Magician Lord one final time. Yes. I now feel confident that my NeoGeo is working properly now. What's left to do is fix the controller and wait for the Rad2X cable I ordered, so I can make use of the NeoGeo's RGB output instead of RF. So I got my NeoGeo working. Unfortunately, it has a crack on it, but I'm happy as long as it's working. Also, the Rad2X cable I ordered will take the RGB output of the NeoGeo and convert it to HDMI. So I will eventually have a much higher quality output than the RF connection I'm using now. The great thing about the cable is that it adds no lag. Other cables that do the same thing typically add lag. And that's a big no-no because most HDTVs have their own inherent lag. So you want to prevent adding any additional lag on top of your televisions. Another accessory I want to get for the NeoGeo is the TerraOnion Neo SD Pro flash card. This will let me store and play NeoGeo cart and CD games through an SD card, so I can just use one cartridge to run all my games. That's a lot more convenient than constantly removing and inserting cartridges. So thanks for watching. I still need to fix the controller, so I will do a follow-up video regarding that. And when my Rad2X cable arrives, I will compare its output to my current RF connection. However, that won't be for a while since the cable ships at the end of January 2020. So if you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button. And if you want to see more content like this, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you, and I'll speak to you next time.